Good evening, all my friends in TV land. Good morning, good afternoon. I know this show is seen at all different times. This is Senior Issues, etc. I'm your host, Vita Verdon. Hurry up, get your coffee, tea, milk, whatever. Get a paper and pencil. This one's for you. You know, I read all your emails. I answer them as best I can. And I've gotten all your correspondence, all your letters and your phone calls. And what I do is I fashion the show around what your requests are. Now, this show comes by request. And the question is, to use the computer or not to use the computer? Am I too old? Can I still do it? And that's what we're going to focus on today is the basics. Should we use the computer as seniors? And I didn't know where to go with this, and so I thought, you know what, I'll keep it simple. Go where I'm at. I live in Libertyville. I live close to Cook Memorial Library, and they have free library classes. And fortunately, when I called the library, I thought, you know, I had the best teachers that they were. And they gave me a teacher that I had in 2 of her classes. And I'm telling you, if I could do it, you could do it too, because it isn't that complicated. Now, this young lady that I have, she doesn't look like she's even old enough to be married, but she's married with a young son, and she's very attractive. And she teaches the computer, and she does other things at Cook Memorial Library in Libertyville, Illinois, and her name is Katie DuClos. And we're so happy to have her here. Katie, it's so nice to have you here. And what I know what they want out there. They'd like to get up close and personal. Mm-hmm. So I'd like you to tell them a little bit about yourself, and you could give a little wave and a kiss to your husband and your son. Mm-hmm. I know that he's going to be excited when he sees it. He's how old? 3 years old?
He's 3 years old, yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, why don't you?
Okay, my name's Katie DuClos. I grew up in Libertyville, and I live in Gurnee now with my husband and son. And I work at Cook Memorial Public Library District, and actually I've worked there since high school. There was a short time when I was an elementary school librarian in my 20s. But I came back to Cook. It's a wonderful place to work. I've always loved it. And I've done a variety of positions, but one of my favorite is teaching computer classes, which I've done for many years.
Oh, that's good. Now, you do have a husband?
Yes.
What is his name?
His name is Duncan.
And you do have a son?
My son's name is Colin.
All right, so give a nice, not just a, I want a nice for Duncan.
And Colin.
Yeah. No, one separate.
Oh, okay. For Duncan, for Colin.
Yeah.
Hi, you guys.
Yeah, so they're going to love that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you say you work at Cook Memorial Library, and this show is seen in kind of a widespread district. We go all the way down to Evanston and 25 miles around, and also we're seen on Patch, which is an online newspaper, and on YouTube. So I'd like you to talk a little bit, because Libertyville consists of 2 libraries.
Yes, Cook Memorial Public Library District actually covers most of Vernon Hills, all of Libertyville, parts of Mundelein and Indian Creek and Metawa, or Metawa, depending on how you say it. And we cover quite a large area. We have 2 libraries. Aspen Drive Library is in Vernon Hills, and Cook Park Library is in Libertyville, and we also have a bookmobile.
Now, where is, I know that in Libertyville, the main library is located on...
Right downtown. It's on, the address is on Milwaukee. You get to the parking lot off Brainerd in Libertyville, but right downtown where you see the Anselby Cook home in the center of town.
And then the sub-library...
Aspen Drive Library, which is a full-service library, is it's on Aspen Drive and 60. Many people know where the 7-Eleven is. There, and it's right behind the 7-Eleven.
Okay. Well, Now, when you first started at the library, apparently in high school, you didn't start in computer classes. They probably didn't even have them then.
No, well, they had some computers then, but they were not computers that everybody could use.
Oh, so it wasn't a computer lab.
No, it was just to run the library and check materials out and keep track of patrons.
Well, you're young enough that you probably grew up in school using computers.
Yes, well, I'm 43.
Oh.
So there weren't computers when I first started school, but in elementary school they started getting computers in school, and I loved them.
And so then when you came to cook, you just started out in the simplest of job if you started in high school.
In high school I worked in circulation. I washed records and checked materials out and cleaned the staff room, things like that.
And so at what point did it evolve into you actually teaching classes?
Well, actually, after I graduated from college, I became a school librarian and really enjoyed that. I worked in an elementary school, and they started getting computers for their classrooms in the elementary school, and I started teaching classes for teachers then. Because the teachers didn't have very much computer experience and were a little bit nervous about it. So I started teaching classes for the school district for teachers. It was so much fun to teach adults. I loved the kids too, of course, but adults were fun to teach too.
So that's when you started teaching computers. But now, in reference to your Cook Memorial Library job, exactly at what point did you go on from being a librarian to a computer teacher also?
Well, actually, lots of librarians do a whole lot of different things, and many of our librarians teach computer classes. I started doing it, I was starting to train staff, and then we began offering classes for patrons as well. So on how to use the card catalog or the internet, very basic, and the mouse is a class I've taught for a long time, how to use a computer mouse.
Well, I wanted to mention that what we are is featuring the classes that are involved at Cook Memorial Library, but since this show is seen in a wider spectrum than locally, that every library has some sort of a system set up to teach computers, that each person, because the Cook classes are just confined to locally, right?
Right. Our classes are so popular that we restrict them just to our library district card holders. But every library in the area offers free computer classes, and I'm part of a group that of computer class teachers, and they're wonderful teachers in the north suburban area that teach lots of computer classes.
Because I know I had for one of my classes at the library a computer teacher from Fremont Library, which is in Mundelein, Illinois.
Yes, we hire teachers from other libraries to teach some of our classes in the evenings and on weekends.
So I know, like the Vernon Hills, that they would be part of the Aspen in this library group. But in Evanston has a huge library. In Evanston, the show is seen in Evanston. So they have to consult with the Evanston library. Well, in the next segment, we'll go into the details of the classes, but let's just brush on some of the classes that there are. I know that you teach keyboarding, right?
Yes, I teach a keyboarding class. I teach a mouse class, introduction to the internet. I also teach a photo editing class. And let's see. And then we have teachers who teach things about Microsoft Office, so Microsoft Word and
there's
Excel.
also a basic.
Oh yes, and the computer basics class.
A computer's basics class.
That's taught by Isabel. She's actually from another library.
I think she's from Fremont.
Is she from Fremont?
Yeah, that's the one, because I've had Isabel for a couple of classes. She is from Fremont. So there's a variety. So what would you suggest if the person just wants to start? Should they go into the library and talk to somebody? Would that be a good idea?
Sure, you can come to the library and talk to our reference staff. or the information desk, and they're very familiar with the programs that we offer, and they can suggest something to begin with. Or if you've never used a computer before, it's always a good idea to start with a mouse class, because most of the classes assume that you know how to use a mouse.
Well, most teachers assume that everybody knows what a mouse is. Yes. So I think we should start there. A mouse is a little tool that, how would you describe that?
It's a pointing device. You use a mouse with your hand to point at things on the screen. So you move the mouse on your desktop and it moves an arrow on your screen. You can point at things and select things with them.
Yeah, because as I came into the computer world, the first thing that I had to learn is there is a computer language.
Yes.
And so sometimes a teacher could be teaching something assuming that you understand something in the language. So it's one of those things that what you have to do is learn how to ask a lot of questions. Yes. Now we're going to come back in depth to some of these classes on what Katie teaches, but right now we're going to go into Vita's Pearls of Wisdom. Okay, now this show is being filmed on April 1st, 2013, so, and you'll be seeing it at different times of the year. But this, for seniors, is kind of a dangerous time of the year because we're still, the temperature where we are living in the Midwest ranges between the 20s and the 30s, and then on a warm day it goes up to the 50s. So we have to really be careful of if it rains and then freezes on ice and falling. And, you know, I've gone through this one bad fall. I don't need another one. So I'm real aware of temperature changes. So I want you all, you know, to really be careful when you're going outside and what the weather is. And if you feel that the weather is going to be uneasy, get yourself a folding cane. And I had brought that in a few times to show you. And what it is, you can buy one at, well, most medical supply houses have them, but also I bought mine at Walgreens. I'm not recommending Walgreens. I just recommend that it's available. And what it is a cane that you could use. You don't have to use it all the time. And then it folds up in about, it flaps down in about 4 different places, and it goes into like a little purse. And you just could hang it on your arm like a purse. You don't have to use it all the time. And that's important. And don't have that kind of pride, like, I don't need it. If you're a little off balance, you know, just beware, because prevention is what we're looking for. You don't have to go through the aftermath. I wish I would have known, you know, I wish I would have done, you know, because, you know, when you get up there in years, the limbs are harder to heal. Okay, I got that out of the way. I'm not going to be preaching on you for that. I just want to see that you're taking care of yourself properly. All right, the next thing is I want you to learn the computer and to get into our website, because the website will show you, like what I have listed on the website on one of my blogs right now is all the shows that we're doing in April. So you have a preload. And on there, I have, there must be about 30 or more shows up there, and they're all by subject matter. So it depends on what your need is at the moment. And it's fashioned after you, and all the requests I get are, we're in this thing together, you know, and living a long time. And we have to know not only how to do it with dignity, but how we could pass this information down to the generation that's coming after us. I know what I did a few years back is often I'm asked to speak at different senior functions on how seniors get started in television. And what I bought was a great big cowbell. And to get their attention people would be talking before when I get up to speak. I take the cowbell, bing, 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 and read it. And it got their attention. And I'd say, I consider myself to be a modern Paul Revere. And so I said, what I do is I come to the town hall and I come in front of you as a group and say, wake up, the baby boomers are coming, the baby boomers. Well, I'm telling you, we've reached that time. They're here. They're upon us. And so what you have to do is wake up and know how to take care of yourself. Go to the website. It will give you all the information. Now let's get back to shall I do the computer? Shall I not do the computer? You can do it because I can do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're getting back to Katie. All right. First of all, I know what I've taken from you, and, I consider you to be, she won't brag on herself because she's kind of a low-key person, but I can brag on her. She's a good teacher. The thing I like about Cook Memorial classes is they have a small lab, and it's only 8 people in the lab. And so that means almost like you're getting private classes. I've called some of these outlets, Best Buys and that, and they have what they call geeks. A geek is one of those computer vernacular words that you have to learn. A geek is like a computer expert, and they charge as much as $100 an hour and even more. So, this is expensive stuff. And here you have the opportunity to get that quality of direction free. But I know, like the classes are listed. Maybe you could talk a little bit about this, Katie, in the publication.
Yes, 4 times a year we publish a newsletter called The Ins and Outs. And most libraries have newsletters like that, and those list all our programs, and not just computer classes, of course, other programs for adults and children and everything we offer. And then usually there's a day when you start signing up for computer classes and all programs. And with computer classes, because they are so popular, you want to register right away if you can. So
say you got your bulletin on the Ins and Outs on a Monday, but it said the time to call is Saturday at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Best you call Saturday at 9 o'clock,
yes,
or else you won't get in the class.
We do have waiting lists.
Then you put on the waiting list.
And you can also register online, too. It's also on our website.
So I thought maybe you'd tell our audience, like, how long the class is. Well, let's take one of the classes, because I think it's a real important class, is let's take the keyboard.
The keyboarding class, sure.
Yeah, let's take that.
That class is an hour and a half long, and we usually have a break once they're over an hour. And we talk about keyboarding. And when I first started planning the class, I thought people just wanted to learn how to touch type, which typing without looking at the keys. But then I found, after asking people, what they really wanted to know was what all the keys were for. So the first half of the class, we talk about every key on the keyboard and what it's for, and we practice using each one. And then the second half of the class, we talk about touch typing, and there's a wonderful website called typingclub.com that you can use to practice touch typing, because typing in the past, maybe you took it in high school or maybe not, but you would take a semester-long class to learn how to touch type. And you can't learn it in an hour and a half. You can learn the basics, but practice is what really makes you a good typist. So with this website, you can go home or come to the library and use our computers and go through lessons on this website.
And then it's practice, 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 practice.
Yes. Everything, when you're learning anything new, takes a lot of practice and being patient with yourself if you make mistakes. And the more you practice, the better you get at it.
Well, you said something before we start filming the show which really impressed me, and it was something about, you drive a car, but you don't have to know how to fix it.
Right.
Maybe you could tell our audience that, because that struck me. I thought that makes sense.
Sure. I see people coming to classes and feeling like they need to know everything about computers, but you really should focus on what you're interested in first. because you'll be most motivated to learn. And it's sort of like learning to drive a car. You don't have to know how every part of your car works to drive a car and get where you need to go. You just need to know the parts you need to know. And it's the same with a computer. You don't need to know it all, especially to begin.
All right. Now, I know you don't particularly teach basics, but you know about the curriculum that is used in basics. Maybe we could go a little over that, because I think that that is important too.
Yeah, the computer basics class is a wonderful class. I've had people come in and say, all I want to learn is how to turn it on and off. And that's one of the first things you learn in the computer basics class is the parts of the computer, how to turn them on and off. And then the basic things that are really helpful to know when you're using a computer, like how to start a program, what the desktop is. And this is where we're getting into those words, the vocabulary that's computer vocabulary that you can learn and is simple once you know, but this class is a great way to learn it. They talk about saving files and organizing files and moving files. And when you go to this class, you have to have a USB drive, which you probably had. And if you don't have one, you can buy them anywhere, but we also sell them at the library.
Now, see, this is where I think we have to stop and explain this, okay? Because the first time that was said to me, I thought, what is that?
Yes.
And then when I got it, which is only about this big, can you see it?
Sometimes they're called thumb drives, because they're about the size of your thumb.
All right. So, you know what? Let's go into an explanation of that.
Okay.
Because that stymied me.
Yes. A USB drive is, well, if you remember, floppy disks were things you used to store computer files on. A USB drive is the same kind of thing, except it is smaller, about the size of your thumb or a pack of gum, and it plugs into your computer, and you can store files on it, and actually quite a few files, because they can store a lot more than old floppy disks can, and they're very sturdy as well. But you save files on it.
And if you don't have one, which is what happened to me, you could buy one at the library. They sell them, and you could buy it in any computer store, or you could buy it in any kind of.
Can I get one? Thank you. Here's one. Here's a little USB drive, and it has a little cover so it can stay safe in your purse or in your pocket. But this part plugs into the computer.
Right.
And you can store letters or pictures on it, and then whatever computer you go to, you can open up your letters and pictures.
So, in other words, when you go into the class that teaches this, at one point in the class, you plug this into the computer, and then at the end of the class, you take it home. And everything that you did in the class is stored on this little tiny thing. It almost seems impossible, but it is true. Now, that's one of the basics that you learn. And another basic that I think is really important is how to get into a person's email.
Yes.
Because I think that's what seniors really want to know.
To learn how to email their friends and family.
Right.
And I'm not sure if we have an email class this season, but we usually have them during the year. And it starts out very basic. How do you set up an account? And send email, compose. Actually, it starts with composing, writing an email message, sending it, and then receiving them and reading them, and the things you can do with that.
And I think it's important to, when you send an email, the thing that I had to learn is it says, now what do you want done with this address? That you could, if you go through that and how that works and how that address will come up when they save it.
So if I sent you an email, I could then save your email address in an address book, like you would in a written address book, so that the next time you I wanted to email you, it would be simple just to write in your name and your email address would pop up.
Well, say if I have your email on my computer, and your email would start with K.A. As I would punch in the K and the A, it would pop up.
Yes.
And then I wouldn't even have to put the whole address. I just have to put it in the 2, and mine will come up because my email address is stored in there too.
Right.
And that's something that I had to learn.
Yes, and it's sort of a surprise because your computer is trying to guess
Uh-huh.
what you want to do. Maybe do you want to email this person whose name starts with K-A?
Right.
And you get a whole little list, and you can say, I want to email this one.
So I think that it's an important thing to learn the basics, and I think the thing that you said that's so important is you don't have to learn everything.
No.
The other area that I think is up there with the high importance is the mouse.
Sure, sure.
Let's talk about the mouse.
Yes.
Because my first experience with the mouse, I grabbed onto it and grabbed onto it so tight.
Yes, and your hand starts to cramp up.
Right.
You can get so tired. Or sometimes people pick it up, and because you say point at the screen, and they pick it up and point it at the screen. Because that's logical. That's exactly what we're saying. But yeah, the mouse is something that once you know how to use it, it seems like how could anybody not learn this very quickly? But it takes some time to learn the first time. In the class.
The sensitivity of the touch of it.
Yes, yep. And you have to know how to move it, hold it, like you said. You don't want to grip it too tightly so you're uncomfortable, but how to hold it and move it, and then how to point to things on the computer with it, and then click, and all the different kinds of things on the computer screen that you click. We talk about that in the class. And that class, I think, is a wonderful class because people really feel comfortable using the mouse when they leave.
Well, this is what I was going to talk about. When I got started, I actually was fearful of the computer. Like this was some electronic monster that would swallow me in and break
Yes.
at immediate touch, that I was going to break it.
Yes.
Okay? And so it was like, here's the computer, here's me, in between was my fear.
Yes.
I had to break through my fear to find out I could do this. So, hopefully this takes away this, hopefully we are attempting to take away the stigma of trying that you're not going to break it.
No.
That it's a lot harder than you think it is.
And coming to a class is such a smart way to begin because you get a little help. You can ask questions. You can take your time. You can take classes more than once, which is nice. And you can, that fear, it's so nice to see somebody overcome the fear and know that they can do it.
One other thing is that when I started, I thought, oh, I'm just going to have to learn everything there is, and there's so much, Well, it certainly with technology is endless. But then I found a niche, and I got used to my computer. Now, when I go to the computer classes, which is the only other computer that I use, I find out the computers in the class are different than mine.
Sure,
have a different touch. Now, in this last half a minute, what kind of passion do you get out of it?
I really enjoy teaching computer classes. It's so fun to see people come in and be nervous, but then realize that it's not so scary. It's it can be a fun thing to do, and they can do it.
Well, now we could go on and on, but you know what time it is when you come to the end of your rope. You know what you do? You tie a knot and hang on. Do you want to know why? Because the best is yet to come. God bless you. You catch the spirit this week.